and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
And I am the returning Ann Northrup.
Welcome, Ann Northrup.
Thank you so much.
Nice to have you.
Well, nice to be back. If briefly at least, I'm going to be away next week again because I told you I was going to try to take weeks off. And viewers said to me, what happened? I thought you were going to take weeks off. So this month I'm taking some weeks off, but I'm here now.
In this week's news, we have the results of Tuesday's elections, including a big win for a lesbian Native American in Kansas.
Strange but true.
And she's got a good chance of winning.
And a good result from a federal court in Washington, D.C. A judge has again rejected the Trump administration's plan to ban transgender troops from the armed forces.
And Delaware's governor has relented on his plan for an anti-transgender student policy.
We're very sad to hear about the death of gay theater pioneer John Glines, a great guy. He was the first to thank a same-sex partner at the Tony Awards. That was 1983, and he has just died at the age of 84.
We're going to show you that speech if you stay tuned.
It's really good.
The accused neo-Nazi killer of a gay student, Blaze Bernstein, in California, is charged with a hate crime as well.
There is a shakeup in the leadership at Lambda Legal Defense.
A gay Florida high school valedictorian was cut off by his parents just as he was about to go off to Georgetown University, and a bunch of people across the country stepped in and helped him out.
The police in St. Petersburg, Russia, have arrested 25 LGBT activists for an unsanctioned Pride March.
The out-gay Prime Minister of Ireland says that when the Pope visits there in late August, he's going to bring up same-sex marriage with him. I don't think he's making a proposal. He's got his own husband.
I don't think he's going to have time to do it either, but we'll get to the details of that. Margaret Heckler, you remember her? She was the Secretary of Health and Human Services under President Reagan when we became aware of the HIV/AIDS crisis.
We have the cure!
Hey, God bless her for thinking that and being an optimist. At least she talked about it, but we will talk about her. She has just died.
And Ann and I went to see Straight White Men. That's the title of a new play on Broadway. And I went with Bill to see Head Over Heels with the music of the Go-Go's. We shall review.
And other things in entertainment news. But I guess we should start with election results since it is a primary election week and election week.
I mean, New York Times did a big feature story about how there were 400 plus LGBT candidates running in November already.
Yeah, well, it's only August.
And one of them is this woman in Kansas, a Native American named Sharice Davids. She's an out lesbian, and she got the Democratic nomination for Congress there in a six-way race, and she's going to be running against a Republican who's been there for a little while. This guy had won his district by double digits, but Hillary Clinton won the district in 2016. So that makes it one of these districts that the Democrats think that they can pick up with a lesbian Native American in Kansas.
Well, let me tell you a little about Sharice. She is, let me see if I can find this. Where did I have it? Oh, she's a former mixed martial arts fighter. Then she became a lawyer, and she also spent a year in Obama's White House as a White House fellow. She has a very rich and varied history, and she was actually one of the more moderate candidates in the race. She is not, even as the lesbian Native American, she was not regarded as the most progressive candidate, but she wants to expand Medicaid. She has a great progressive agenda. And so we'll be watching her race in Kansas.
And we've got an out lesbian Attorney General candidate in Michigan, Dana Nessel. She would be the first statewide lesbian elected official there if she's elected. The anti-gay extremist current Attorney General, Bill Schuette, has won the Republican nomination for governor, and he's going to run against Gretchen Whitmer. He's very anti-gay. He's horrible. And you know, you also have this record number of women running for the House and governor seats across the country, and that's also very encouraging.
Well, and also in Kansas, you have the right-wing nut Chris Kovac nominated for governor by the Republicans.
That's still not decided. It's only 100 votes or so.
That's true. They, I guess, will have a recount.
He's Trump's candidate.
Yes, he
against
is.
the incumbent Republican governor.
And he's the one who's been trying to destroy voting rights all across the nation.
Well, and there's a Democrat, of course, who got nominated. Her name is Laura Kelly. And given how badly the Republicans have performed in Kansas, I mean, what's his name? Kolbach is saying, I want to continue. I want to continue the tax policies of the governor who's run the state into the ground.
Sam Brownback,
who's now your international ambassador for religious freedom.
God. Well, HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, is sending staff members to 6 key states this year for the midterms: Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, and investing $26 million in this effort. So they are targeting spots they think they can win.
And the Democrats may or may not pick up that seat in Ohio that was focused on this week.
I'm not optimistic about that.
I'm not optimistic, but it's like 1,000 votes between them.
It's also for only a couple of months, and there will be a rerun in November.
But that's a district that Trump won by 11 points, and that's a district that the last Republican congressperson won by like 30 points.
Yes.
So that is an enormous swing, and is really ought to be depressing, I hope, to Republicans.
Well, that's what everyone's saying, that it's a harbinger of a week after everybody else.
A couple of days.
By the time people see this.
I always want to point out, though, I mean, again, every single special election has seen a double-digit swing to the Democrats. That's very encouraging.
It is, but as someone also said
Trump
this week,
won the presidency.
A win is a win. And whether they win by 20 points or 1 point, if they win, they win.
The trend is very important.
It is.
That's not a district we would normally think we could pick up.
No.
And you know,
so far we have not.
There are more encouraging things. In Missouri, the voters there rejected an anti-labor right-to-work law by a 2-to-1 margin. That is fantastic.
It is.
And in St. Louis County, to see Wesley Bell, 43, beat the 28-year incumbent prosecutor who failed to prosecute the cop in Ferguson, and Wesley is from there. He was a Ferguson council member. That is also fantastic.
Well, I hope that all bodes well for Claire McCaskill.
Yes, indeed. And it's nice to see Trump's favorite congressman in New York, Chris Collins, get indicted for securities fraud.
We have a little schadenfreude about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Although I predict, we're taping as usual on Wednesday afternoon, so you can check me by the time you see this. My prediction is Trump will tweet, "He didn't make a penny on the deal. He lost a lot of money. Why are they prosecuting him? Why isn't Robert Menendez in jail?"
Now, you know,
We'll
New York has a primary for the statewide races and state races on September 13th. And
a Thursday.
We've told you, I didn't realize that.
Yes.
September 13th.
Hey, this Governor Cuomo is no dummy.
Yeah.
He's doing everything he can to get people not to vote.
Well, we've told you about Cynthia Nixon running against Cuomo, but in the Attorney General's race, you've got Tish James, who's the public advocate of New York, versus Zephyr Teachout, and another who is sort of the more, I would say, the more radical candidate. And then you have the out Sean Patrick Maloney, who says he's the moderate in the race, and he says he spent his 52nd birthday this week making fundraising calls and meeting with the ultra-Orthodox Satmar Jewish leaders.
He's a member of Congress. He's running again for his congressional seat and the Attorney General's seat. There's some question about whether he's allowed to do that, but so far he is. He would prefer the Attorney General job. I think he is not going to get it.
And you know, the Upper East Side of Manhattan used to be very liberal, what would they call sort of moderate to liberal Republican.
Silk stocking.
Yeah. And there's a guy there named Pete Holmberg, who is an out Republican trying to unseat one of the finest state senators, Liz Kruger, a Democrat.
Yeah.
But he declares on his website, "I am a homosexual." His language is as antiquated as his views. Pete Holmberg.
Okay.
I'm for Liz Kruger.
Yeah.
And it's also nice to see in New York City that they're not going to charge prisoners for phone calls anymore. I mean, I've had to deal with this with clients of New Alternatives for Homeless Youth. If they don't have a lot of money, they can't make these exorbitant phone calls from prison.
It is disgusting.
It's not even prison. I'm sorry. This is jail. You're just a detainee. You're not convicted of anything.
Right. And there is a system whereby they have a contract with the phone company which gets to charge these exorbitant rates for phone calls. Now, when I used to be in jail overnight for civil disobedience arrests, there would be a payphone just outside the bars, and you would reach around. They wanted you to do this. This was the way it was set up. And you could just put a quarter in the payphone and make a call. Or in those days, maybe less. It's a long time ago. But this is a system where they charge you by the minute. It escalates enormously, and it's egregious. But the corrections officers are upset because they say free phone calls will allow gang members to, perpetrate their nefarious activities because now they have free access to a phone. Yeah, like they would be stopped if they're a major drug cartel.
And we have many criticisms of Governor Cuomo, but he did say he would investigate that clerk upstate who, refused to license a gay couple for marriage.
Well, this is, you mentioned this last week, but the clerk is claiming that the gay couple who wanted to get married upstate had no appointment, which they should have had because everybody in the clerk's office is part-time.
Yes,
this is regarded as specious.
But the lawyer there for them said they can just go somewhere else.
Well, she also did say at one point to them that she had a religious objection to their marriage. But she also said that they could go to the deputy clerk. And now I think she's required to fulfill her public duties.
Yes.
But
that's outrageous to go into a public agency ever and say, well, I don't like your looks, or I don't like your sexuality, or I don't like your color of your skin, or whatever, and I'm not doing it.
No,
for whatever reason.
Her job is to issue the license.
It's against the law also to discriminate against gay people in this state.
All right. Should we go back to Trump?
Sure. Let's do Trump.
All right. Well, you mentioned something last week that has an update and needs a little elaboration, and that is Jeff Sessions and the Department of Justice's Religious Freedom Task Force. I think you were hustling to get a couple of weeks' worth of news done.
We had 2 weeks' worth.
Yes. So I wanted to talk a little more in detail. The Sessions says that what this task force...
Jeff Sessions.
Yes, our Attorney General of the United States. What his plan is to emphasize the rights, and I put that in quotes, of people to have religious views and put them into practice as discrimination in the public square against people they don't like.
And they were also schooling them in how to get government money.
Well, it's not just how to get government, yes, that, but what he's doing is issuing instructions to every Justice Department office around the country to emphasize looking for cases where they can uphold the rights of people like the Colorado baker to reject customers on the basis of their religious opinions.
Why do you think he's so anti-gay? He was a senator from Alabama.
Yes. He has been consistent in his views over the years.
Yes, he is.
He embodies the old South.
And he's a racist dog, besides.
Yes. But
which is why he was rejected for a judgeship once.
This is a very, very dangerous operation. This is not just lip service. This is not meaningless. This is the Attorney General of the United States instructing everyone who works for him to prioritize taking cases that that uphold discrimination against LGBT people.
In anticipation of a new Supreme Court that will uphold this kind of discrimination, which is why the Democrats, I don't know if they're going to say this, but, and I mean this sincerely, they really do need to expand the number of Supreme Court justices when they get into power.
Well,
it would just, all it takes is changing the Judiciary Act, which they're allowed to do. It's totally constitutional. I know Roosevelt was stopped for it by Democrats in the 1930s, but it can be done, and it must be done if we're going to overcome this nonsense that they've thrust upon us.
Well, am I foolish to think that we are actually making progress on possibly stopping Brett Kavanaugh?
A lot of stuff has come up about him, about his, especially his political dealings under Bush. So yeah, there's some possibility, but I look at the way Republican senators have voted for, including the so-called moderates, every single one of his bad appointments, except for a handful who were just so egregious that they withdrew.
Yes. So, and they have till January to accomplish this. It's not just till the election in November.
They'd like to get him in for the first Monday in October, which is when the new court starts.
Well, sure, but I think some people think that if we can hold out until the midterm elections, we win. But in fact, then we have the lame duck Congress that can still go ahead and confirm him until the new Congress takes office in January.
That is true.
Yeah, so something to worry about. So the Human Rights Campaign has filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the Department of Justice to get all the details on the Religious Freedom Task Force.
When are you meeting? Can we go?
And how it was formed and who you talked to before doing it, because all of this is being done in league with the Alliance Defending Freedom and all the other right-wing.
Tony Perkins, the Family Research Council.
And in fact, as we tape, Sessions is scheduled to give a speech to the Alliance Defending Freedom tonight. Which is something he does regularly to their meetings. They are his constituency.
Wouldn't our people speak to the ACLU?
Yes, but the ACLU is good and is doing the right thing.
We think so.
And the Alliance Defending Freedom is a machine of bigotry.
Well, speaking of religious bigots, did you read
But the late night shows have been making great hay on the Religious Freedom Task Force.
Help people understand it. Speaking of religious bigots, in Milwaukee County, they have an acting sheriff. His name is Richard Schmidt. And he used to...
Well, he's there because the previous sheriff, David Clark, was such a horror show.
Oh, so now there's an election. Now he's running in the Democratic primary to be the sheriff. And he's got an opponent, and you should know the person's name. And I will find it. Anyway, Richard Schmidt is a member of a highly fundamentalist church, and he said things like, abused women should submit to their spouses, and same-sex marriage is against God. What else did he say? He said abortion is mass slaughter and contraception is unacceptable. So he's wiped out all these...
Against the Bible.
He's wiped out all these podcasts. Oh, his opponent is somebody named Ernell Lucas.
Yeah.
The primary is August 14th. You might want to go to the polls.
Milwaukee, go vote. Look, the guy, if a few more people had come out to vote in Columbus, Ohio, we could have beaten that
Not much
Republican.
of Columbus is in the district, but yes.
Well, the suburbs, but whatever. In the congressional district.
We did very well. I'm saying, I think that result was pretty damn good. I'm talking about a 30-point swing in the race.
Of course. And yet...
That's the trend.
We're going to lose the seat.
All right, but I mean, they've already picked out all the seats where Hillary, represented by Republicans, that Hillary won.
Yes.
We're going to win them, right? It's up to you.
So they say.
If we vote.
But it would be nice if when we come close, we could actually win. So that's my only point.
We influence things outside of elections. We got Governor Carney there in Delaware to withdraw that regulation that restricted the rights of transgender students. He backed up on that after kowtowing to the religious right on it.
Yes, he was at first issuing guidelines from his Department of Education that supported trans students, and then the right wing came charging in on
No.
And he flipped. He completely amended the guidelines to be against trans students, and then we got up on our hind legs, and now he's back to being pro trans students. Someone ought to take a look at what his value system is.
Speaking of religious nuts, how about that Alex Jones? He's now getting banned by Facebook, Google, Apple, and Spotify.
But not Twitter.
He's deeply anti-LGBT, but it was very funny to watch the Fox News.
Anti-LGBT. He's anti-kids who were murdered in Connecticut.
Exactly. So it was very funny to watch Fox reporting this. I flip the channels. I check you out there on Fox sometimes.
I try, and 10 seconds later, I just
Don't
can't.
you think this is a slippery slope? If Fox, you've been on the slippery slope forever. I mean, you have no dedication to the truth. Some reporter just quit after 9 years, and his friends said, "You really couldn't take how prejudiced they are." 9 years.
Hey, evolution. It takes a while. Oh, and I want to add a detail to something else you talked about last week. You talked about the bill submitted in Congress by the right-wing Republicans to ban the flying of rainbow flags or anything other than the American flag. But the detail that wasn't talked about was that this was at embassies around the world, because in fact, U.S. embassies around the world have been very LGBT friendly.
More about which in international news.
Oh, okay. I should have saved it for then, but it's embassies where they want to do it. But here was my question when I read this. What about the POWMIA flags? Are they going to be banned?
No, that's a New York state law, that you have to fly it with the American flag. When you fly the American flag, you have to.
But don't they fly it all over the place?
Maybe there are other places that do it, but I know it's a New York state law.
Okay.
It's a black flag about people who were missing
But it'll
in
be
action in
outlawed
Vietnam.
if the Congress passes that law.
But you said it's just for embassies, right?
It's targeting embassies, but it may affect everybody.
Right. Well, Joe Biden, how about his new social media campaign called #AsYouAre to highlight the harms of family rejection and promote LGBTQ acceptance?
Well, I'm very cynical about these things, so I didn't even write that down.
Well, I'm cynical about what the IRS did this week. They recognized a TERF church. Now, TERFs are trans exclusionary radical feminists. The name of this church, can I say this on TV? I think I can, is the Pussy Church of Modern Witchcraft. They don't allow males. They reject the concept of gender identity, and they think this Kathy Brennan is believed to be behind it. But
She's
the
sort of the
IRS
chief.
approved this.
Well, what's so astonishing about that is that Dykes on Bikes, a long-standing motorcycle club, very friendly, very positive, they had to fight with New York State for decades to be able to register that name. And now the IRS has approved this.
Lambda Legal was very controversial and had to win a Court of Appeals case in 1973. Segue.
All right.
No.
Well, I thought we might get to Rosie
No,
O'Donnell
let's do
first.
Rosie. Rosie O'Donnell, they're having these demonstrations down in Washington.
Ever since Trump met with Putin in Helsinki, there have been daily demonstrations outside the White House calling the White House the Kremlin Annex.
#Kremlin Annex, yes. She's standing there before a sign in front of the White House, is it? With the word treason on it.
Yeah. She and Seth Rudetsky got together a bunch of Broadway stars.
She said, she ended her speech by saying, "Stop fascism before it takes over in the U.S., which is what we're trying to warn you all about. And but Rudetsky ended it with the hair song, "Let the Sun Shine In."
They went on Monday, which is the day off for most Broadway shows. So
That's
they
great
took
that they all got on a bus, I guess,
the
or flew,
casts
I don't know.
of Hamilton, Wicked, one or two other shows, and they went down there to support the demonstrators who are out there every day, which I thought was terrific.
There's no business like show business.
Yeah, exactly.
So in West Hollywood, they've urged the Trump star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame not be restored.
Yeah, but that's just...
I think they should just make it into a toilet. Tourists need that, and then it would be something useful.
That's a little disgusting.
I think it's a good idea.
The star, by the way,
it would be very popular.
Is not within West Hollywood's jurisdiction.
I know that.
Okay. Moving on.
I think Trump is disgusting.
Well, okay. Let's get to some other stuff.
Really disgusting.
We talked.
Go ahead.
Less disgusting. Back to politics. The governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf, has issued an executive order forming a commission on LGBTQ affairs. He's put, 40 people on this commission?
Yeah.
They say it's the first statewide commission of this kind.
Hard to believe.
Very hard to believe.
Well, I mean, New York State had an AIDS council.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever had and the city had gay groups and things the mayor would appoint.
If they say it's true, we must believe it.
My friend Ann used to call these things put-up jobs, but, you know.
Well, people on it are very excited about it, so we will give it the benefit of the doubt and hope that it accomplishes something. Now, Pennsylvania does not have a statewide non-discrimination law, so...
No, it's outrageous.
So perhaps...
A lot of cities do, but...
Yes, but perhaps they can make progress on that.
In Ohio, Judge Joseph Kirby is being sued in Warren County for not allowing trans children to change their names. He told a 15-year-old, "Come back when you're 18." Now, usually, if a kid wants to change their name, they allow it, especially when they have the parents' support, which they did in these cases, but he won't do it because he's anti-trans.
Yes, and judges have a lot of individual power. So legal groups are important in this, and that's my segue to the changes at Lambda Legal Defense and Education Fund, which for the last 2 years has been run by Rachel Tiven, who's been a guest on this show. But she has announced she is leaving Lambda, and there's some controversy about her tenure there. The staff she says she was brought in specifically to make big changes, and that she accomplished that, and provoked a lot of turnover and new blood. The staff, which has been trying to unionize, says she was too autocratic.
They referred to toxic leadership, and they won a contract, which they've been denied.
Yeah. So it's not parting on great terms,
And I felt that, I'm not criticizing for this, I kind of was encouraged that Lambda got pretty political while she was there, and I think she wants to do politics full time.
That is what she's leaving to do, to get involved in the midterm elections. There she is on Gay USA last year?
Yeah.
I think so. So she's moving on to that, and we'll see what happens with Lambda and whether the staff succeeds in unionizing and who takes on the job.
Lambda.
Because it was run for all those years by Kevin Cathcart. And that's hard.
Who stayed in the background, pretty much.
He refused to do much press. We kept asking him to come on this show, but we ended up having a lot of Lambda lawyers come on the show. But it's hard to replace someone who has been in charge that long.
I guess so.
And to change the culture. She would say it would have been tough to change the culture. They say, the culture didn't need that much change. But that is a change at Lambda.
We told you about the murder, I guess it's at this point, it's last year, isn't it, of Blaze Bernstein, 19. He was gay and Jewish, by a guy named Samuel Woodward, who was a neo-Nazi and who we knew.
Mm-hmm. Newport Beach.
They are increasing...
California.
They're bringing hate crimes charges, sentence enhancement. It increases the maximum to life without parole from 26 years.
Well, they got into Woodward's phone or computer or whatever and read some of what he had written, and they realized that he had some pretty horrible
against
points
gays
of
and
view.
Jews.
Yeah, so they've added hate crimes.
His defense is going to try to be that Bernstein tried to kiss him, but they don't allow the gay panic defense in California, I believe.
Well, it's ridiculous. In Minnesota, in a town called St. Peter, a couple of same-sex couples have been targeted by an anonymous letter writer who has been writing hateful things to them. They have not...
Voluminously.
Yeah.
Very specifically, you're going to see from this report.
Yeah. So we have a local news report on this from St. Peter, Minnesota.
Threats to burn their homes down and kill their children. Police are investigating both cases. Fox 9's Christina Palladino spoke to one of the couples tonight. They're urging anyone with information about who might be behind these hateful words to come forward. Christina?
Well, that's right, Randy. So for the first couple, the threatening letter started about a year ago. Then in May, another gay couple in St. Peter received similar hate mail. The women I talked with tonight say even though they're fearful for their lives, they needed to speak out.
Oh, here we go.
As Angie and Jamie Mace reread letters addressed to their St. Peter home filled with hateful language towards gays and death threats to their young daughter, they hope their renewed efforts lead to an arrest.
It's very unsettling. It's just our normal is gone, and that's all we want is our normal back.
The couple first received the letters last August. They were sent in the mail, but authorities apparently found no fingerprints or DNA on them. The person behind the pen knew details about the couple and their daughter that were deeply disturbing.
They threatened to torch our house, to kill our daughter. Like, it's ridiculous. Nobody said, we never said you had to like us. We don't care if you approve of our lifestyle. That's not what we're asking. But holy cow, you threatened to kill children?
After nearly a year-long investigation and still no arrests, another gay couple in St. Peter received a similar letter in May. Police are trying to figure out if the same person is behind the two incidents, but that's when Jamie and Angie decided to take some action on their own. The two started this GoFundMe site in hopes of raising a reward for someone to come forward with any information.
I hope that people see it and maybe they recognize some of the words that they used.
So far, more than $3,000 has been raised from friends and the community.
We're putting that up to find this person. It's not money for us, it's a reward.
The couple says the letters filled with hate keep them up every night, wondering who could do this, if the person lives in their neighborhood or far away. They worry most about their young daughter, but hope by taking a stance, they put a stop to it.
We were quiet for a long time, and now it's time to be loud.
Police tell me these are two open cases and they're actively investigating them. If you have any information about who's behind this, you are asked to call St. Peter Police. We also have a link to the couple's GoFundMe reward page on our website, fox9.com.
And in Jacksonville, Florida, the sheriff there has finally formed an LGBTQ liaison team after 3 trans women were murdered there and another one shot. Another situation where they're looking for help for information.
Also in Florida, there's this high school valedictorian named Seth Owen who was set to go to Georgetown University. There he is. And on the verge of this, his parents disowned him because he's gay and he went to a conversion therapist that he didn't like, and he stopped going to church. They didn't like that. They threw him out and they won't support him anymore. And he thought he wouldn't be able to have the money to go. There was a nationwide fundraising campaign, came up with all this money, and then Georgetown turned around and said, we'll give you a full scholarship. I do have to say that, he thought he had no options. There are state schools, and I don't know who's going to pay for this all the way through. Maybe Georgetown is, but it's...
I think Georgetown is, and he's going to take the money that was raised and give it to another scholarship fund.
And the encouraging thing is that all these people came to his side. He's also the head of the swim team.
And look, Georgetown is a Catholic school, gay kid wanting to go to a Catholic school. I have my questions, although they gave him the scholarship. But he's specifically interested in their foreign service school, which is a particularly good place.
Preeminent. I forgot to mention that, we always said that the Trump administration is anti-science, but the Veterans Administration is invoking science to say, we don't want to cover Agent Orange for people who were on ships, so we're not going to do it. Citing science.
That's ridiculous.
Bringing in scientific studies. Science. How about bringing scientific studies into climate change?
Well, meanwhile, I'm happy to report that the District Court for the District of Columbia has again rejected the administration's effort to dismiss lawsuits by GLAAD, G-L-A-D, from Boston, the legal organization, and the National Center for Lesbian Rights for the trans military service. The judge said that to deny trans people the ability to serve is to put an extra burden on people who are qualified to serve, and that was
But no matter what the judges tell the administration, they still discriminate, and that's what they're doing.
In Hollywood, Florida, the police have conducted a sting in a porn store. Did you do this last week?
Yes, we did it last week.
Yes, you did.
Horrible story.
Yes. All right.
Horrible story.
One of those guys who was outed by the press has lost his job.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Just awful.
And in Camden County, Missouri, they've arrested a man who punched 3 men he perceived as gay in a bar.
Yes.
He said, I don't let gay stuff go on.
This is the Trump era.
Yeah, exactly.
But we want to celebrate the life of John Glines. John Glines was really a pioneering theater producer. He's dead at the age of 84. He died in Bangkok, where he retired, and he's survived by his partner, Cho War-rat. John originally wrote for Captain Kangaroo and Sesame Street, but then he got into gay theater, and he found that a company called the Glines, which produced all these gay plays in Tribeca in '76, produced Jane Chambers quite a bit.
Yep.
And he
Last summer at Bluefish Cove.
he nurtured Torch Song Trilogy from off-Broadway to Broadway, and won the Tony Award in 1983 for it. And we want to show you his acceptance speech, because it's the first time anybody at the Tonys, 1983, mentioned a same-sex partner.
And the winner is Torch Song Trilogy.
This is a stupendous and miraculous moment, and I would like to accept this in memory of Jane Chambers and Billy Blackwell, and in honor of all my brothers and sisters. And I would like to express my deep gratitude to the nominating committee and the voters, to Harvey Fierstein, who wrought much more than he knew, to Peter Pope, our director, who put the magic in with his hands and his heart, to the company, past and present, God bless them all, and lastly, but most importantly, to the one person who believed and followed the dream from the very beginning, who never said, "You're crazy, it can't be done." And I refer to my partner and my lover, Lawrence Lane.
Everyone was so scared I was going to say something very embarrassing to you all. I mean, Mel Gussow prayed that I would win the Tony just so I could say something embarrassing. I can't. We started in the basement of La Mama with one-act plays. The Glines is the only theater in America that would put this show on. They mortgaged an Oriental rug in their living room to do it. We opened for an 8-week limited engagement, could not give a ticket away for 3 weeks. Here we are tonight. Oh my God, it's ringing. Good night.
That's it. Cut. Thank you, John. That was really historic. And Liz Smith, who was still closeted at the time, chided him in his column for thanking his lover.
God.
Oh, God, it was terrible. But he also produced As Is, Billy Hoffman's AIDS play, the following year on Broadway. And he won the Drama Desk for Whoop-De-Doo in '94. And he was a trustee of Broadway Cares. Who was a support.
It was just amazing what the Glines did for so many years. So revolutionary.
And he was
so
such
important.
a sweet guy. Such a sweet guy.
Okay.
All right.
I just want to, and speaking of pride, Monday, the 13th, this coming Monday, 7 p.m. at the LGBT Center on West 13th Street here in New York City. Heritage of Pride is holding an open forum, a town hall meeting, to get input from everybody about what they think Stonewall 50 World Pride next year should look like in New York. Please come and give your opinion. 7 p.m. Monday at the center. Heritage of Pride Town Hall. And meanwhile, Reclaim Pride Coalition is meeting every Saturday still at the center at 1:30 p.m. to work on formulating our vision of what that should be and which we will take to the
What was the
Hoptown
result
meeting.
of the survey?
Overwhelming desire for a People's Civil Rights March to replace the corporate Mardi Gras, as I call it, that has taken place. Overwhelming. 3/4 of the people made it their first choice, and the rest made it their second choice.
In international news?
International news.
Well,
Go ahead.
you know, the Pope this week said that he doesn't think the Bible is correct. He said that the death penalty is inadmissible. There are an awful lot of death penalties, including for homosexuality, in the Bible.
Presents a problem for U.S. Catholics.
I'm glad that he said this, but of course, you know, he hasn't come around on a lot of issues.
Well, here's the thing. The Prime Minister of Ireland, who is an out gay man, Leo Varadkar, says he's going to talk to the Pope when he's there for World Family Day about same-sex marriage and other issues. The problem is this is a meeting with 120 people for 10 minutes. And they got a long list of issues to discuss.
He's the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
He ought to get
Don't
a
hold
say.
your breath.
Well, he says that same-sex marriages should be treated as marriages by the church. That's, you know, in Ireland.
We got to run through
Let's
stuff.
go.
The Gay Games are on in Paris until August 12th. 12,700 participants from 91 countries. The mayor of Paris showed up at the opening ceremony. I assume Shep is in Paris. He goes to all the Gay Games. I hoped I'd have a report from him by now, but maybe next week.
The Freemasons in England have opened their doors to transgender members.
Yes, both. They're all male. So current male members who transition to female are welcome to stay in, and trans men are welcome to apply.
I have a lot of friends who are Masons. It seems like a nice group.
Yeah, okay. They should be treated with kindness and tolerance, according to the group. In Russia, in St. Petersburg, they held an unsanctioned pride rally, and 25 people got arrested. I think we have a picture of that, if I can ask people to throw it up.
There it is. They're always getting arrested in Russia. And in Armenia, 9 LGBT activists were attacked by more than 30 people, you cowards. On August the 3rd, 2 were hospitalized.
They were meeting at someone's home.
Took the police an hour and a half to respond to this.
The attackers came into the home to drag them out and attack them.
Things are getting out of hand.
In Northern Ireland, in Belfast, they had the biggest turnout ever at Pride, 50,000 people, and they continue to demand the right to same-sex marriage, the only part of the British Isles that does not have same-sex marriage.
A world survey showed that 56% of nations allow LGBT groups to organize without threat of arrest or harassment.
In Chile, the new conservative president, who had promised coming in that he would abide by the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights mandate for marriage equality across South and Latin America, is backtracking. He says that he is not interested in supporting marriage equality. So the activists will go back to the Inter-American Human Rights Commission and the Court of Human Rights.
Cuba is now expecting a referendum to approve marriage equality under the new constitution.
And in Costa Rica, the Supreme Court decision on marriage equality is imminent. They held a big demonstration over the weekend.
Thousands marched in Jerusalem Pride, and the uproar over not including us in surrogacy continues to be a hot issue there.
LGBT activists there are forming a new all-LGBT political party. Well, that's...
They got a lot of parties in Israel. They have never had a majority government in their history.
Well, they say that the LGBT politicians who they've had occasionally in the Knesset and elsewhere are not effective enough, and they want to consolidate power by organizing.
When you get a certain percentage of the vote, even if it's small, you get some representation in Parliament there.
Sad news from Hong Kong, where Ellen Joyce Liu, 32 years old, who was an out pop star who married in another country and was very well known in Hong Kong, has committed suicide. She evidently was bipolar,
Fell from a skyscraper in
Yeah.
Hong Kong. There was no suicide note, but she suffered from bipolar,
Yeah.
On July 5th, this happened.
In Trinidad and Tobago, they held their first Pride March since sodomy repeal. We've told you a couple of months ago about how they repealed the sodomy law there, and they had a very good turnout with a lot of rainbows for the first Pride in Trinidad and Tobago.
In Germany, they had their 40th Pride, and the American ambassador, the out-gay Grinnell, marched in it, participated in it.
Yeah.
We just don't celebrate, in this administration, we just don't celebrate gay pride at home.
And, you know, Congress, seeing that, in fact, embassies around the world, U.S. embassies are participating in Pride celebrations, is trying to knock that down. I'm surprised we haven't heard more from Mike Pompeo.
Well, he did allow it at the State Department. He
Yeah.
issued some sort of a statement. He's one of the few.
I
and
guess
he's anti-gay.
Their politics are different across the pond.
And in Brighton, England, a man, after the Pride March, he got on a train and he threatened to stab the riders there. He said they needed to be killed. That was his phrase.
Better story out of the UK, where a man and a woman who had served in the military many, many years ago, who were gay but closeted, pretended to be a couple and were in fact best friends. Well, now 30 years later, each has married their same-sex partner, and they held a double wedding with the two couples.
I saw a play very much
in
like
Cornwall.
this. I saw a play very much like this, but it took place in the McCarthy era.
Yeah,
Not
it's
today.
taken a while. They said when they were coming out of the church, people were confused. And then they figured it out. All right, AIDS news?
Yes.
Let's start with Margaret Heckler.
She was the wholly unqualified HHS secretary at the dawn of the AIDS epidemic. She served under Ronald Reagan, not for very long. But when the French first found the virus, and then she had Robert Gallo up there saying, "We found the virus, and we'll have a test within 6 months." Well, it took 11 months, and then she said, "And we'll have a vaccine trial within 6 months."
Yeah, she was basically predicting a cure within about 6 months. Now, I give her credit for optimism, and I give her credit for talking about
False optimism.
Talking about it when the president would not. But
Well,
here's what here are a couple things from her
I wish we had the video.
obituary.
She was very nervous.
Here was her, we're talking about her because she died.
But she did go up to an AIDS patient in the hospital with Ed Koch, another war criminal.
We don't
and
have a
shake
lot
their
of
hands.
time.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had never been in charge of a bureaucracy. I had never known anything about medicine. Sounds like the Trump administration.
She reassured people that for the overwhelming majority of Americans, there's little or no risk of getting this disease.
She says she had learned about the disease only when she took office in March 1983. Now, this was in all the papers in 1981, and you were a member of Congress.
Don't say it was in all the papers. The Times did a little story and didn't do another story for 2 years. It was not covered by the mainstream press. It was not. It wasn't.
I think she.
That's why so many people are dead.
Okay.
And she was a big ERA supporter, equal rights amendment.
Very anti-abortion.
Yes.
All right, some stuff out of the Amsterdam International AIDS Conference. There have been a lot of demands to move the conference in 2020 out of the U.S. It's supposed to be in San Francisco.
It's because we're an anti-gay nation.
We are, and we're also an anti-immigrant nation, and so they're afraid a lot of people will not be able to come to the conference. So do you want to bring people here to confront Trump, or do you want to make it available for everyone around the world by putting it somewhere else?
I want to go somewhere else.
News, PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, Truvada, does prevent transmissions, and its use is skyrocketing in San Francisco, which is making new infections plummet. But what is also skyrocketing is, as you said last week, Hep C and STIs.
Well, in Australia, they're finding that 13% of the men had 53% of the STI diagnoses, and there's a But there's also been a big increase in STI testing among these men.
Yeah. They also are discovering that trans women on hormones, the hormones they're taking may diminish the efficacy of PrEP.
But in Namibia, 77% of those with HIV are now have fully suppressed the virus, and diagnoses are down 40%. If the president is watching, that's the country you call Nambia.
Yeah, and also good news like that from Kenya and Uganda. Treatment works, but of course they're cutting funding for treatment. And there is actually now, I've always been very negative about the hope for a preventive vaccine, but they're having some good results with one that they're testing in South Africa.
Right.
So anyway.
We've got to rush through entertainment news because there's a nuclear war coming and we have to get to Atomic Cafe.
Yes.
Okay?
All right. Miseducation of Cameron Post. We have a picture from that movie opening. Some critics liked it. We did not.
We did not. It's about conversion therapy.
It is, and it's tedious and pointless.
Yes.
Straight White Man, the Broadway play by young Gene Lee. We didn't like that either.
Apparently good off Broadway, but not on Broadway, even though Armie Hammer and Josh Charles are good actors. And there's our old friend Kate Bornstein, who opens the play with a transgender kind of frame for the thing, which makes absolutely no sense.
Yes, we didn't like that. HBO, Lena Waithe is producing a show with the out black gay internet star Kid Fury. It takes place in New York City, undiagnosed depression, guy in his early 20s, dark comedy, look for that.
Variety newspaper did a trans Hollywood cover. There it is. Trans Hollywood.
And Caitlyn Jenner is interviewed inside saying she is lobbying the White House and Congress behind the scenes on trans issues.
Our deepest condolences to Julie Halston, the great actor and a friend of this show, has been co-hosted this show. Her husband, Ralph Howard of WINS, has died. He was an anchor and entertainment reporter there. The service is this Sunday at 3 p.m. at Riverside Chapel, 180 West 76th Street. When they got married in '92, Julie said, "I love you so much that I'll even listen to you once in a while." And Ralph said, "Julie didn't blink when I told her I have 5 children."
Congratulations to Bex Taylor Klaus, who has come out as trans non-binary. Is past star of Arrow and Scream and Voltron legendary Defenders.
I am the gay, she said in a tweet.
Mark your calendars for...
And she came out because of the climate in this country that she wants to fight.
Yes. Mark your calendars, August 24th, Hot to Trot, the New Fest Audience Award-winning documentary about same-sex ballroom dancing that we've featured on this show is opening at the Quad in New York.
I also saw with Bill Head Over Heels, which is the Go-Go show.
Oh, yeah.
It was a little confusing to me, but everybody seemed to like it. And it's the gayest, most lesbian, transgender thing on Broadway.
But if you want to be titillated, amused, and scared, the movie to see is 1982's The Atomic Cafe. Still playing at the Film Forum in New York and opening this weekend in Los Angeles and San Francisco.
You'll be okay.
Hey, did you see that city where the first atomic bomb was dropped? Yes, Fred. It was a shambles, huh? A shambles? It looked like Ebbets Field after a doubleheader with the Giants.
Well, I guess there's nothing for us to worry about. We're the ones that have the bomb.
Attention. We interrupt our normal program in the United States is under nuclear attack.
In the background was the growing struggle between two great powers to shape the post-war world. A Cold War.
Enemy aircraft are...
I think we should use the atomic bomb in Korea. We could destroy them and contaminate them.
Now listen, kids. If they're dropping an atomic bomb, we'll wait about a minute after it's all over. Then we'll go upstairs and take a look around.
A new housing development near Denver, Colorado shows the nation's first model homes with built-in fallout shelters. It may be just what the harried housewife is looking for.
Here's the drink that you don't pour. Now when you take one sip, you won't need any more. As small as a beetle, or big as a whale. Boom, atomic cocktail.
We must be ready every day, all the time. First, you duck. And then, you cover. Under the table. It's a bomb. Duck and cover.
This is not a haphazard maneuver.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Nobody's worried about the atomic bomb, but nobody's worried about the day my Lord will come, when he'll hit great God Almighty like an atom bomb. When he comes, when he comes.
And by the way, do you know exactly what your family would do if an attack came? Say at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's a good question, isn't it?
We're laughing, but we shouldn't be laughing because it's probably going to happen now.
This is a restoration of an all-time classic. I loved seeing it, although I was scared to death. But it's a great pastiche of amazing things.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to draw your attention to a show that's only got one more performance at the New York City Summerfest at the Hudson Guild. Dan Kavulish's Swan Song. It's going to be on Saturday, August 11th at 6 p.m. This is about a middle-aged gay man having to care for his anti-gay mother as she goes into senility.
Mm-hmm.
It's by Dan Kavulish. Swan Song.
It sounds depressing.
It has its moments of humor. Oh, I'm not supposed to review it because I only saw a preview, but one more performance.
And I saw a movie that's being released on DVD and video on demand next week called Porcupine Lake, Young Girls in Love. It's not very good. You know?
We want things to be good.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, this Miseducation of Cameron Post got a lot of nice reviews, but it was like, and it's got Jennifer Ely and John Gallagher Jr. as the conversion therapist, and I love their work, and I just thought this is all wrong.
Well, and not only was it all wrong, but I was shocked by the reviews because it was a really tedious movie, and it really did not, I thought, appropriately portray conversion therapy.
Yeah,
and
the horrors of it.
Yes.
They had a guy commit suicide. Whoops!
But the reviews are saying, oh, this was such a subtle explication of conversion therapy as opposed to all the scare tactics. Have you seen what they do to people in conversion therapy?
I watched the 2020 special on that, and it was hair-raising.
Yeah. So we're not big fans of that.
No.
And we're discouraged when we see reviewers like that.
They just want to bend over backwards for the gays, you know. Ooh, there I said it.
It's a terrible
We don't
thought.
have to do that.
Well, I actually have a theory about criticism because I have spent time off and on in my life having jobs criticizing stuff, and I found that what kicks in is an impulse to say nice things because there's so much horrible stuff out there.
I don't like saying bad things.
No.
I also don't like wasting my time in the theater or in the movies.
No, not at all.
But if you like something, I'm happy for you.
And if you like something that we should know about,
tell us about it.
TV, music, movies, whatever, let us know, and we'll pass it along to our viewers.
We do appreciate that.
Yeah.
We wanted to like straight white men.
And I hope you like our guest co-host next week, Rachel Lipstein, who will be here filling in for me and giving it a try for the first time. And I think you will enjoy her, Andy.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Looking forward to being with her.
They will see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.